Hello students, I'm Anita Abraham, Associate Professor of English. Welcome to the English classroom. This is video number 9 dated 27/7/2020. Today's English lesson is from semester 2, unit 4 of the General English curriculum prescribed by Osmania University for students of BA, BCom, B.Sc and BBA. Today's topic is titled Interview Skills. If you like my video, please subscribe and press the bell icon so that you get notified of subsequent videos. Let's get started. The art of facing interview. Interviews are an integral part of the selection process. So the selection process could be for employment. Interviews are also an integral part of your, of joining for a course in higher education. So when you go for your post graduation also, you need to attend an interview. So we are looking at interviews from two perspectives now, from an employment perspective and for higher education. So for both, whatever you need to do after your undergraduate course, either go for a job or for higher education, you need to get ready for interviews. Okay, so that's why we do this session in semester 1 itself, even though it is prescribed for semester 2, because you get a head start and you start preparing for interviews from semester 1 itself, and you can be ready by the time you are in semester 5 or early semester 6 when placements happen, or after semester 6 when you go for higher studies or for job opportunities. Okay, so interviews are an integral part of the selection process, and usually the selection process is has 3 steps: the written test, which is the first step, the group discussion, then you have the personal interview. And the personal interview is usually a question answer session, and you must remember that's the last chance you have to make an impression. And group discussion and written tests are usually done for by companies for the entry level positions, and that applies to you because you all are freshers, right? But as you go higher in the as you go up the ladder and to higher positions, often it's just the personal interview. You don't have the written test or the group discussion. But for our purpose, because your students, your freshers, written test, group discussion, and then a personal interview. And then the same applies for higher studies also. You take your entrance test and then you have an interview, right? And sometimes there are some universities have group discussions too. All right, why interviews? Okay, different weightages are given for different components. Although the written test weightage may be higher in some case, you cannot do away with an interview. As you go higher, all the 3 stages will not be used, only the interview will be used. But whatever the selection process, finally there is the interview. Now you must know what you are getting ready for. What all are the various factors that are involved, internal and external, that are involved in this interview process, so that you get ready with the necessary skills. So you should know what an interview will be like. So you need to know the composition of an interview panel. The panel that will interview you will consist of 3 or more members. The number of members does not make any difference to the interview at all. There can also be single member panel, and that is what you will see when you attend campus interviews. There will be just one person interviewing. Another thing that you must keep in mind is there can be more than one round of interview. There will be a technical round, and then there could be an HR round also. So you must be mentally prepared for these things. And another thing that we must keep in mind is the duration of the interview. How long will the interview be? So you must be mentally prepared for it. It can be as less as 5 minutes, and it can be as long as 30 minutes or more. But students, you must keep in mind that the duration of the interview is not an indication on how you have performed, or what is your outcome. For example, a candidate may go in and come out in 5 minutes. You may be kept for 20 minutes. Another candidate may be kept in for 40 minutes, but that has nothing to do with the outcome of the interview, or the what do you call the performance of the candidate, because there are a lot of external factors. You really don't know what's happening inside the room. Okay. And you must also remember the kinds of interviews. We will be doing that in detail, but generally the broad categories are: there are two kinds of interviews, the stress interview and the non-stress interview. Now, the stress interview is used to create a stress, it is used to recruit people who are in sales and marketing and things like that, where the job environment itself will be stressful. And it is used to evaluate if the candidate has the ability to handle stressful situation. And some of the examples that can happen, during the interview to, test if you can handle stress is that you walk into the interview room and there is no chair. How do you handle that situation? Or the candidate's stress level is increased by, three or four people, rapidly asking questions, or even your answers are criticized, to see how you handle it. Okay, then confrontation is another way of creating or doing the stress interview. That is, you have given an answer, and the panel questions the validity of your statement. So how are you going to present or justify your stand? Okay. Then they may give you a situation, and then your reaction if you have failed in, if they give you a they give a describe a task and say this was the task and you have failed in it, and what will your reaction be? Sometimes they use abusive language, which is very, very rare. But then you should be aware that it could be that somebody in the panel is playing the bad cop and uses aggressive, abusive language. How will you take that? And another technique in that the panel uses to during stress interviews is not to maintain eye contact with the candidate. And candidates have always been told that you must maintain eye contact with the panel, and when you're answering, try to maintain eye contact. And you will find that the panel members are not maintaining eye contact with you, or deliberately avoiding, and that is to create a stressful situation, to see how you can handle it. Now, non-stress interviews is what, as freshers, mostly you will face, and both in the employment scenario and also when you go for your higher education interviews. It is conducted in a friendly fashion. The candidate is given enough time to answer, so that they know you are a fresher. They give you the time. It's a friendly atmosphere. They try to make sure that you are relaxed, so that that you are performing at your optimum level. A complete stress interview is very rare, unless it's for a high profile sales marketing job. But generally it is usually a mix of a stress and a non-stress interview that most candidates face. Okay, and you could get one or two stress questions, and the stress questions can also rise from what you have answered. You have answered a question, and that leads to the stress question, and just to see how you handle it. Okay, now let's go to the most important part. From semester one, it's something that you must start doing, that is preparing for yourself for the interviews that will happen 2 or 3 years later. But then uh, uh, plenty of preparation must go into it, because it is something that can break or make your life, whether it is a seat in a prestigious university, or an employment in, or a job in a good company, and that comes when you do well in the interview. So it's good that you start preparing slowly and steadily from semester one. So what's the first thing that you need to do? You need to build your knowledge base about your subject, about general knowledge and current affairs. You cannot do it overnight. So consistently read, the newspaper, listen to the news, be abreast with current affairs, build up your general knowledge base, analytical skills, pick up computer skills if you are not computer savvy, because it's a must. And then, of course, be a good student and know your subject very well, and then build your communication skills and your soft skills. So that's very important. So that's why I said let's begin in semester one, so you have 2.5 years to get ready for the uh, interview. Dress code is very important. Slowly learn to, dress well, present yourself well. It cannot be overnight. You are always in t-shirts and jeans, or you dress shabbily, and then suddenly overnight you have to dress for an interview. Try to, slowly start. That doesn't mean you go out and spend a lot of money buying clothes. No, with whatever you have, start evolving a style for yourself that is neat and presentable, so that it comes naturally to you when you have to go for your interview. And of course, soft skills, body language is very important. Try to get rid of certain habits that you may have, like touching yourself, biting your nails. All of us have some kind of habits that doesn't give a good impression. So identify what those are and try to work on them. And of course, communication skills, apart from current affairs and general knowledge, analytical skills, computer skills, and your subject, also develop your communication skills. And the language is very important. English, definitely very important, but then it can be specific to certain jobs. For example, you're interviewing to be an anchor for a Telugu news channel or a journalist for a Urdu paper, then you need to know those languages. But in general, whether it is for higher education or for employment, English is a must. And uh, develop your communication skills and in English, so that your confidence levels are high. Avoid fillers, avoid using words like basically, actually, frankly speaking, to tell the truth, to be honest with you. These are all fossilizations that most of us have. So practice so that you get rid of these, so that you can communicate accurately and fluently during the interview. And try to avoid using bombastic language, dramatic language. Be clear, precise, and simple in your communication. And while preparing for interviews, the other things that you need to take into consideration is focus on building a positive attitude. And that also doesn't come overnight. Work on yourself so that you come through as a vibrant, positive, happy person. And also substitute from uh, why me with try me. Okay, so don't try, in an interview, don't try to sell yourself that you are the ideal candidate for the job. Instead, try the other approach. Try me. Give me a chance and I will be the best choice for the job. So this and all you cannot do overnight. So this comes with practice over a period of time. You need to, like I tell all my students, build on your resume and practice your interview skills from semester one, so that you are ready by end of semester five, early semester six. Okay, develop self-confidence. Okay, so you have had 2 years of intense intermediate study. Now you're in college. There are a lot of activities in college. Take part in extracurricular activities, join clubs, play a sport, take part in all the activities that are there in college, so that you develop a rounded personality, interact with your seniors, interact with your juniors, do join in all kinds of activities that are planned for you in college, and you will see you are developing your confidence, and that is very, very important. And of course, there is no substitute for hard work. So build your knowledge base, build your self confidence, your communication skills, and your soft skills. Start doing that, and you will see how you are slowly getting yourself ready for the final interviews that you will have to face. Okay, now what's very important is, while we are preparing for interviews, we like you should know what is the composition of the interview panel. Also, what will could happen inside the room. See, nobody can predict how your interview will go, but it's always good that we mentally be prepared that, okay, these are some of the things that can happen, so you are better equipped to handle it. How do you conduct yourself when you are entering the room, the initial moments, because that's very impression. The first impression is always the best impression, and they always say that an interview panel judges you in the first 30 seconds of seeing you, and the first 30 seconds is just you have just entered the room and just greeted everybody, and they've already made up their mind on if you are a suitable candidate or not. Okay, then your sitting posture, how are you going to sit on the chair? So practice that. Okay, and then where are you going to keep your hands? Is your hands going to be kept on your lap? And if you have a folder, what are you going to do with the folder with all your certificates? Eye contact. If there is one person in the room, it's fine. You're just looking at one person. If there are more, three or five, then how are you going to do? Learn how you will sweep your eyes across while you're answering a question. So these and all cannot be done, without practice. So a lot of practice is necessary, individually and in group. So in group, of course, we will be doing it as role plays in class, but then it is better that you practice individually by yourself in front of a mirror, so you know how you're presenting yourselves. And then also, is it suitable to crack jokes with the panel? No, as freshers, no. But then if they crack a joke, or if they say, if one of the panelists says a joke, then how are you going to react? Don't laugh aloud, smile, make sure that you have understood the joke and appreciate it. But then don't you cannot ignore it. So how are you going to handle these situation? And then also, you should be very quick to understand if you are holding the attention of the interview panel, or are you boring them? And you need to make that transition very quickly. And then also understand that natural conversation helps. Keep it simple, keep it real, keep it project your natural self. Don't be dramatic and bombastic, because people can see through that. And don't give the impression that the answers have been memorized, because certain questions are predictable. Like, for example, tell us something about yourself. So we can prepare for that, and we must prepare for that, but then let it not be like you have memorized it by rote, and then you just cough it up or vomit it at the interview panel. You should present it in a very natural way, and that will come with practice. Okay, and also must remember that there is no one set way on which you can handle the interview. With every interview, you need to change the approach. Okay, so you need to re-strategize every interview that you will attend. And so that's very, very important. Okay, and also it is good for us to know what is the interviewer looking for, so then we know what we have to be ready with. The first thing is whether you are suitable for the job, or if it is if you're eligible for the seat for higher education. Your level of knowledge, that is very, very important. That's why I said, while you're preparing, knowledge important to know, not only about your subject, current affairs, general knowledge, analytical skills, computer skills. Okay, all this is very, very important. Then your conceptual knowledge, how are your concepts clear? Okay, when you are presenting yourself, are you exhibiting clarity of thought, your soft skills, your communication skills, in short every other skill except your subject knowledge or your technical skills. And then also they would want to know what are your career plans, okay, so your short term goals, your long term goals, and then your basic personality, whether it is in sync with the overall what do you call setup of the company, okay, or are you a suitable fit for the company where you are going to work. And the other very important thing is interacting or reacting to situations, ethical dilemma issues, okay. So that's why I said current affairs is very important. So they may whatever is current, for example, something that I could think of right now is the Black Lives Matter movement that is so big in America, and it is spreading slowly all over the world. So, what is your take on it? How do you see that in the Indian society or in the Indian context? So, you should be, these are all ethical dilemma questions, or your take on climate warming, okay, climate change, global warming. Or if your take on India's and the China face off. So whatever they could bring a question like that, a situation, and ask you to react on it. So you should be very, very aware of what is happening around you and what your stand is. So you should have a very clear stand on these kind of issues. Now, another important area in while preparing for interviews is the type of questions that they can ask. Nobody can predict what will happen in the interview, but then there is a broad framework from within which we can work. Some of the things that you have to prepare for is about yourself, the subject knowledge, the subjects, your optionals, okay. If you have some experience, then work related, general knowledge, current affairs, personality related, okay, career related, hobbies, extracurricular activities. These are things that you can prepare and you should prepare, and start preparing now and slowly build it up over the next few semesters, so that wherever you see that you lack, you can fill it up, okay. So for example, I always tell my students, they have not done enough extracurricular activities because in the intermediate level you don't have the time. So when you are in college, this is the time that you pick up a hobby. If you don't have a hobby, you can pick up a hobby, and for the next 2.5 years you can play a sport, or whether it is music or whether it is dance. You can do internship, social work. There are so many opportunities when once you are at the undergraduate level, and so you can do a lot of extracurricular activities and develop a hobby, and then you can honestly say that you have a hobby, or this is your extra, and it looks very good in the on your resume, and when you talk about it, okay. Now, very important is body language during the interview. So I'm going to give you some tips so that you can start practicing it, so that by the time you are facing an interview, you will be very well prepared, and you will radiate confidence, and your body language will speak for you, okay. So some of the things that you should not do and do. So let's look at it. Do not review prepared notes while waiting. Instead, look at a magazine, look through a magazine, and that shows that you are relaxed. Okay, so usually we have notes like before the exam, you sit outside the examination hall, and you're cramming in all the important points. Please don't do that for an interview. Just take your folder, go sit at the waiting area, relax. If there is a magazine, pick it up and read. If not, just wait, just relax, okay. If you're looking at notes, looking up at things, you're being observed. You may not be in the interview room, but you are being observed. So and don't stress yourself, just relax, okay. And then knock and enter the room confidently. And if offered, then you give a firm handshake. Okay. uh, your facial expression should be pleasant. So these are things that we can work on. So that's why these tips are given to you, so that you can practice over a period of time. And then maintaining eye contact, because see, in the Indian context, looking somebody in the eye is considered not respectful. Okay. It's also considered rude. But then in an interview, and when in the workplace, they insist on, this eye contact being um, uh, 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 signifying confidence, being truthful. It shows that you are being honest. So we need to come out of this habit. Okay. So generally, when you speak to elders or somebody senior, you tend to look down, because that's what we've been taught. But you need to get over that. So practice that, maintaining eye contact, because it signifies honesty and confidence. But don't overdo it. If you overdo it, then it is staring and it is considered rude. Okay. Then don't fidget and move unnecessarily in your chair. So you need to practice, because it's, these are things that we do generally, and but we cannot do it during an interview. So it is good that we start practicing. Learn to sit still. Learn to sit in the right posture, straight back. Don't slouch, don't slump your head, your shoulders, your back, your feet. Okay. How are you going to keep your feet firmly on the ground? No crossing the legs, or no, all those kind of things. If you have those habits, please try to get rid of those habits. So this comes with practice. Then fiddling with your hand. You don't know what to do with your hand, you're fiddling with your hand. So try not to do, if you have something in your hand, then you're fiddling with that. So be very careful with those things. And then, of course, the tone and the pace of your speech. Okay. Keep it very neutral, medium, not very high pitched and not very soft. Okay. So that also comes with practice. And pronounce words clearly. Don't fumble, don't be too fast, don't be too slow. All this comes out with practice. And the other important thing is, when somebody on the interview panel is asking you a question, don't interrupt. Wait for the person to finish the question and then answer. And then also don't use a lot of ha, hemming, hawing, clearing your throat. That implies lack of confidence, and the fact that you don't have a ready answer, and you are searching for time. So it is better that all this comes with practice. There's nothing that practice cannot make perfect. So do practice, students. Okay. Let's also look at some of the common reasons for failures in interview. Okay. It can be internal, that is, you are not well prepared, and also certain external factors which we can control. Okay. See, the candidate should not lack self-confidence or appear nervous. So if you are nervous, if you convey nervousness, and if you don't have the self-confidence, then what happens is immediately you are rejected. So please work on your self-confidence. Okay. And I know it is stressful. Facing an interview panel is not easy at any level, whether it is for freshers or whether it is for someone with lot of experience, because there's a lot at stake. It's high stake. Okay. You get the job, you get the seat. So we are bound to be stressed out, but then we cannot show our nervousness. And then, of course, the halo effect of the candidate should be impressive. The halo effect is the first impression. You're walking into the room, your greeting and your handshake. Okay. So that first 30 seconds is very, very important. So try to give a very positive, self-confident image of yourself, and half your job is done. And if you have poor communication skills, that's again a put off, and that could be a reason why you have failed in the interview. Then your body language, work on your body language. Okay. So that no negative cues, no negative signals are conveyed to the interview panel. And then the other reason why candidates fail in the interview is they don't have the relevant subject knowledge. It is unacceptable. If you're going for an interview, you should be well prepared. You should know your subject. You should know the current affairs. You should be well versed in general knowledge. You should have the your knowledge base should be proper, and that is up to you have to prepare, okay? And the candidate cannot be arrogant. You cannot appear to be rude and aggressive. You should it may not go your way. There may be a situation in the course of the interview where you feel your back you're cornered, and uh, you are you feel that it is not going your way, but still you have to maintain your calm and make sure that you finish the interview with dignity and walk out of the room, okay? And then the other important thing is you must read up on the company that you are applying to and the position that you are applying to. Often what happens is students don't know much about the company, and a question often asked is, so what do you know about our organization, or what do you know, what do you think are the job responsibilities of the position that you are applying to? And then the candidate doesn't know, and that is put off, and that will never fetch you. That you're not going to be selected, that is for sure, okay? Similarly, if you're going for an interview for higher education, then you should have excellent subject knowledge, and you should be able to field the basic questions in that subject. That is very, very important. And then, of course, dressing, you should be properly dressed. Body language is very, very important. We did body language, a session on body language and dressing earlier too. Hygiene is very important. Your nails, your hair, your teeth, all that is very, very important. You should be well groomed and well dressed. And then, like we said earlier, the candidate cannot be arrogant, the candidate cannot be rude, and cannot lose his or her temper during the interview. You just have to be polite, make sure that the interview is over, and walk. Then you don't take the job, even if they offer you, if you feel it didn't go your way. But you cannot argue, you cannot be rude to during the interview. And then another reason why candidates are not selected is inability to reply in a focused and brief manner. So you remember we said an interview is somewhere between 5 to 30 minutes, in and around, that time, 10, 12 minutes. But you cannot have these long drawn out answers. You should be able to give clear, concise, crisp answers in good language. And if you're not able to do that, then you will not get the job. So let's look at some simple rules which will help you succeed in the interview. Okay. For the first one is behave as naturally as possible. Be yourself. Be, because they are going to hire you, or you're going to get a seat, and you're going to be with the university, the college, and with your professors for the next 2 years if it is an undergraduate course. So be your natural self. Don't put on a show, don't put on a facade, and that's going to slip, and then you're going to lose your face. And the next important thing is reach the venue for interview well in advance. I always tell my students, go 2-3 days before and check out, because sometimes you don't know where the address is and things like that. So please check out the venue and reach it well in advance, because that's an important skill. You'll be judged on it. Time management, okay? And research on the position and the company. Do extensive research on the company that you're applying to, and also the position. Similarly, if it's a university or a college, read up about the department, the professors there, and it's always good to have that background knowledge. And then wish all the members before and after the interview. Greet them, and then bid farewell also. Say very politely, say goodbye and leave. And always body language. Body language is very, very important. Maintaining eye contact, being focused, anticipating and preparing for probable questions. Okay, we looked at some probable questions and present it in a natural conversational style. That is what everybody appreciates. Be genuine and honest, and then never answer a question about which you are not sure. It's okay. Everybody doesn't know everything. So if you cannot take the question, you can always very politely say, I don't know the answer, in a very that also it has to come with practice. You have to, if you don't know, then how are you going to say no? You need to practice that, and always mind the pitch, volume and pace of how you are speaking. Okay, no, not too loud, not too soft. Listen. Active listening is very important. You listen, understand the question quickly. That is why we say active listening. Comprehension is also taking place, and then answer relevantly. Don't give irrelevant answers. Always carry copies of your resume, because they may ask for it. Even though they have taken it already, they may just ask, can I have a copy of your resume? Then you should be able to give it, and then pen and paper also in your folder, and please organize it carefully, and you organize it. Don't let your friend or your parents organize your folder for you, because then you don't know where what is. Organize your folder, and if you are opening up your file or folder, the people can see you do that. So while you're doing that, they are observing you, your body language. Confidently open it, and pick it out. You should know how it is, where it is, and take it out neatly and give it. Okay, and then most importantly, dress appropriately, neatly, formally, and then attend your interviews, and then definitely you're going to succeed. So let's also look at some different kinds of interviews. We did talk about the stress and the non-stress interviews, but I'm also going to take you through some, the various kinds of interviews, because things have changed. And in today's world, it has, the last 4.5 months, we have seen how we have a new normal. So earlier it would be a face-to-face interview, but now a face-to-face interview may not be possible. It could be a video interview. It could be, a telephone interview. Of course, these things were there earlier also, but then I would like to take you through the various interviews too, so that, you when you're preparing, you know what to expect. Okay, so let's look at interview types. There is the traditional and then the modern interview styles. The traditional styles would be the face-to-face, walk-in, or the campus interviews. It could be structured, that is direct. It could be unstructured. Then there is the stress interviews. There is the behavioral interviews. There are panel committee interviews. There are team group interviews. There is telephone interviews, computer-based interviews, and there is video or online interviews. So do you see all the different types of interviews that you could face? Now let's look at the structured or the direct interview. The questions and acceptable responses are specified in advance. Okay, so the responses are rated for the appropriateness of content. So they ask you a question and then you answer, and then you are rated for that. It is also called the standardized interviews, as they are pre-planned to a high degree of accuracy and precision. So there is a list of questions, and you will be asked those questions, and you have to be, you see this in government exams, interviews, because a fair chance to be given, so that everybody is on the same playing field, and the same kind of questions are asked to every candidate. So depending on the answers, they get selected, and most of the times the questions are set, and the same questions are posed to all the candidates, and the interviewer will direct the interview by the questions he or she asks you, and the candidate is expected to do most of the talking. And sometimes students feel that if the questions are being fire, sometimes you feel that one question after the other, like a rapid fire, it is coming at you. But then that is the set pattern of these interviews, and everybody undergoes this same structure of interview, so it becomes easy for the panel or the interviewer to assess who is best suited for the job. Then you have the unstructured, indirect, or the open-ended interviews. This is what most of you all will face at the entry level. No direct, not directed by questions or comments as to what the candidate should be asked. There is no set format, but then candidate is encouraged to express himself on any topic of interest, his expectations, backgrounds. Okay, then here, when you are doing that, the interviewer is looking for traits of character, nature of his aspiration or her aspiration, strength, weakness, and potential. Most of us students will undergo this kind of interviews at the entry level. Okay, then there is the semi-structured interview, where specific topic areas, there is a general set of questions, but then the interview flows like a conversation, and the topics are covered as they come up. So we need to be prepared for a mix of for something like a semi-structured interview. Okay, so keep that in mind while you are preparing for it. And then the pros and the cons of structured and unstructured interviews. Structured interviews are reliable and valid, as all candidates are asked the same set of questions, and it enhances consistency across candidates. So when it's the same set of questions, it's a level playing ground. Okay, so everybody has got the fair chance. In unstructured interviews, flexibility to pursue points of interest as they develop. Okay, and it helps assessing the clarity of thought of the candidate. For example, what are some of your hobbies? You say traveling is my hobby, and then the next question would be, so what are some of the places that you visited or would like to visit? So that's unstructured. The question, the questions come out of the answers that the candidate has given. Then of course we looked at stress interviews. Stress interviews are confrontational, and it is deliberately done to unsettle the candidate, to see how they respond in tests under stress. And there is nothing like a right answer. They are just looking at the thought process, and this is also very rare. It is for selecting for certain kinds of high stress jobs. Okay, some of the sample stress questions could be, I'll just give you one or two examples. One could be, do you think you're doing well in this interview? Why should I hire you? Okay, that's a stress question, and that is often thrown into most interviews. Okay, so tell us why we should hire you. Another one is, how would you handle undeserved criticism from your superior? Okay, so this is just, there is no right or wrong answer here. They're just trying to evaluate your emotional quotient, how you can handle stressful situation. Okay, the next kind of interview is behavioral interview. This is also very interesting, and this also, nowadays you cannot say this is a stress interview, or this is a behavioral interview, or this is a panel interview. It is like semi everything. It's an amalgam of everything, so that the people who are hiring or who are on the interview get a rounded, wholesome view of who the candidate is. So here, a situation in behavioral interviews, a situation is described, and the candidate is asked how they have behaved in the past in such a situation. Okay, while situational interviews ask candidate to describe how they would react to a situation in the future, and the behavioral interview seeks candidates to describe how they will react to a situation in the past. Okay, so this has happened. They will give you a situation, and then they will say, how would you react, whether in the future or the past. Okay, so they're basically trying to see how you will react in the situation. Okay, the focus is on intellectual competence, experience, behavior, knowledge, team personal skills, and abilities related to the job position. Okay, I could give you an example. An example would be, of behavioral interview would be, and it can come up anywhere, describe a situation when you have been stressed and how have you dealt with it. What would you do if? Okay, and they will give you a situation, okay, and the candidate has to use his intelligence, his experience, knowledge, team skills, abilities, everything to answer. And for answering such questions, there is this technique called the STAR technique, STAR. Let me take you to it. STAR technique is used to answer behavior interview questions. S stands for situation, and here what it is, this the scene, okay, provide content and background, where and what. Then the task, you describe the task, okay, the challenge and the expectation, what needed to be done and why. And then A stands for action, okay, explain, elaborate on your specific action. How did you handle the situation? What did you do? How? Okay. And R is the results, okay, the details of the results, the impact of your action, okay, and what recognition or appreciation or benefits or you got out of it. So this is how you take a star, this is how you take a behavioral question and follow the star model to answer it. So while the question is being asked, this is very important. How do you need to prepare quickly, okay, listen to the question, think of an event, plan your answer, organize and answer in 5 to 8 seconds. This is how you have to do it, okay. And sample questions, I gave you one, we did one, I'll give you another example. Let's look at this, maybe this one. Tell me about a big mistake you have made on the job and how you have handled it. So you need to immediately listen carefully to the question, think of the situation, plan your answer, and organize how you're going to do it, the situation, the task, the action, the result, and then in 5 to 8 seconds give the answer, okay. Then there are group interviews also. Group interviews are group, they put you in a group, and what do you call, it's also called GD, group discussion. A topic is given for discussion, and all the candidates are interviewing with each other, and you are observed, and to see how the group dynamics, your team skills, your leadership quality, your knowledge of the subject, all this is done, okay. And then of course the panel or the committee type of interview. The panel may consist of, there may be a single panel, or there may be 2 members or even 5 members, okay. This is the most common mode of interview, and the interview should, it is very important. If it's a single panel interview, it's okay, it's just one interviewer that you have to maintain eye contact. But if there is more than 1 to 5, then you should you know this comes with practice. What is the best way to look around the entire, take everybody in, listen to the question and then answer to everybody, so what is your body language position going to be, how, are you going to just turn your body towards the person who is going to ask the question. So all this comes with practice, okay. Then the interviewee should maintain eye contact with each person asking the question, but also seek eye contact with other members. So this is something that one needs to practice, okay. And then there is the sequential or serial interviews. This you must have seen in competitions like Miss Universe, Miss World. These interviews where the applicant is in which the applicant is interviewed sequentially by several people, okay. And each one rates the applicant on a standard evaluation form. So the rubric will be there, and these ratings are then compared before the hiring decision is taken. Each interviewer rates from his or her point of view and asks a different question and forms an independent opinion of the candidate. You must have seen the Miss World, the Miss Universe competition. Yes, so there'll be a panel, one person asks and then everybody rates, then the next person asks, so that is sequential or serial interviews. Okay, then of course a very important type of interview is telephone interview. We did a session on telephone etiquette. So it's very important that we come across positively in a telephone interview. The interview is conducted entirely over the phone, and this is a very effective way of eliminating bias that appears based on appearance and manner of the candidate. But then, even over the telephone, there is a set of etiquette that has to be followed. Even though they cannot see you unless it's a video call, they can hear you, and that is good enough. Okay, so be very careful. And then there is email interviews through email based on social network. Okay, so that's why I keep telling my students, be very, very careful on what you're posting on your social media, because when these days when they are hiring you, they go through your social media profile, whether it's your Instagram or your Facebook, and then make an evaluation and then use that also. All right, and it can be through an email, okay, the interview, and then it can be based on things that you have posted could come up. And so don't be very careful what you're posting on your social media, and don't take down posts on Instagram and Facebook also just before the interview. It doesn't, nothing ever disappears from the internet. It's very easy to find you in the dark world of the internet. Okay, and then video interviews. This is becoming also very, very common. And now for the last 4.5 months, when people are working from home, it is the telephone, the video conference, and video calling, and the laptop. All these have become the new normal, and so video interviews are also very common. It could be through Skype, it could be through Google Hangout, it could be through FaceTime, and it is also an alternative to telephone interview, so where you also get to see the candidate. And in fact, you can actually see each other, and it almost gives that real time feel. And also, what you call, uh, you cannot multitask, you cannot do anything else. It is as formal as the face to face interview. And of course, uh, it is very important that we are well prepared for an video interview. Okay, then there is this thing called the one-way video interview, where a candidate is asked to record responses to interview questions, okay, in their own time, and then send it to the company. Okay, or even a selfie interview where you talk to the camera and answer a set of questions. And most people don't know about this type of video interviews, but it is slowly catching up, and it is very much in demand. And of course, then there are the other types of interviews, that is the HR round, that is done with the human resource personnels, that is to negotiate pay and things like that. Then there are appraisal interviews. This is at a higher level, or even after your first year at the job, to review performance and discuss pay hike. So your bosses can have appraisal interviews to to tell you about your performance and things like that, so your strength and your weaknesses. So you need to be prepared for your appraisal interviews. And a lot of youngsters stress out on so after you get the job also, you will have these kind of interviews within the organization. Then there is the lateral promotion interviews, okay, to move horizontally from one position to another position. Okay, your pay and cadre doesn't change, but then it's a new job that you're doing. So they see that you are eligible for example, you are working in marketing, and they feel you are a good fit for a sales position that has come up. So they have a lateral promotion interview. It is within the organization. You need to perform very well on it. And then, of course, the vertical promotion interviews, where you move up in position, and that is also done by a panel to see whether obviously they have you have applied because you feel you are eligible. They have narrowed you down because they feel you are eligible. But then the interview is the clincher, whether you are what you call ready for the job or ready to take on more responsibility. Now look at some other interviews that are part of the general umbrella of interviews. Interviewing a celebrity for a channel, so how should you prepare for that? Interviewing somebody for the radio interviews. Now vlogs and blogs are becoming so common, and now with COVID you see a lot of blogs and blogs. Everybody is into it. So if you're interviewing somebody for a vlog or a blog, how do you go about doing that? Interviewing for Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, news reporting, crime scene interviews. They all require skills, interview skills, and you need to prepare for it. So you need to, slowly start building on your resources. What you have, do a self check. Okay, these are my strengths, these are my weaknesses, these are the areas that I need to work on, and this is how I'm going to present myself. This is the image, a self image develop for yourself and work towards it. Okay. And okay, there's another kind of interview. Since we are talking about the different kinds of interview, we must talk about exit interviews also. So when an employee decides to leave an organization for whatever reason, okay, it could be a better offer, moving, relocating to another place, leaving the job and going to pursue higher education, whatever be the reason, the company or the organization will have an exit interview. And an exit interview is conducted to elicit information about the job and related matters from the employee and help the employer to have better insight into what is right and wrong with the company. So anyway, you're leaving the company, so it is to get feedback about the company, about the job role, how the organization can better it, okay, how the organization can work on its strength. And if as an employee you're able to give some feedback on how the situation or the job role can be made better, then take input so that the company can grow. Okay. And usually it is the HR manager that does this kind of interview. I have some online resources for you. There is plenty of resources available on the internet on how you can what you call prepare for interviews and groom yourself for interviews. And I think you should seriously keep this in mind, because as you're preparing for interviews over the next 2.5, 3 years, what you will see is you are basically enhancing and developing your personality. So take this opportunity, students, and start developing your interview skills, and in the process develop your communication skills, your technical skills, your subject knowledge, your current affairs, and what do you call general knowledge. And you will see that you are becoming a rounded personality, and this will go a long way in helping you develop your future and succeed in your future. Thank you so much.